AITA for returning a birthday gift I got for my boyfriend after he insulted me about my colorful past. This happened last night, but my phone is still blowing up. IF, 26, dipped into my savings and got Mike, my boyfriend, 27, a PS5 for his birthday yesterday. He knew he was getting the PS5 because he told me that the PS5 is the only thing he wants. We've been together for 4 years, so the cost didn't matter. That is until I found out what he thinks about me. Some background. When I was 18, I was involved with Jake, a guy who I met online. We ended things after 3 months, and I moved on shortly after with Adam, a guy from work. I found out a couple months later that Jake and Adam were actually really close friends, but I didn't know Jake long enough to meet his friend group, so I had no idea. After finding out, I took some time off dating, and TWO years later, I met my current boyfriend Mike. I was upfront and honest with Mike about my past and the fact that I was unintentionally involved with friends. He said he understood and my past didn't bother him. Last night at his party, I showed up with the PS5 and him and his friends were screaming with joy. His best female friend Jessica laughed and said, "I wish I was a thought so I could afford a PS5 too." I looked at her with an "excuse me" look on my face and she just said, "Never mind," and walked away. I confronted my boyfriend about it and he said, "Andy, quote, she's just messing with you. You can't take a joke." So I pushed further as to why this girl is even calling me names to begin with, and he said, "Well, everyone knows you were a thought before you met me." I asked him to explain how I was a thought before him on. He said, "You know, messing with best friends?" He then pat me on the shoulder and said that I'd okay because I'm not who I was back then, and if he could get over my colorful past and thought mentalities to give me a chance, then I could get over Jessica's comments and give her another chance. I didn't say anything. I just got up, took the PS5 from the gift table and left. He was ISSED. He literally called me like 20 times, but I didn't care. I was so hurt that I took the bow off and took it straight back to the store I got it from. They happily refunded it. I thought that was done, but Mike and all his friends including Jessica are berating me for being petty, and they're all saying I brought this on myself by making poor choices. I responded to Mike and told him that he deserves better than me, so find someone who wasn't a thought and get the PS5 from them because I returned it. He started screaming how I'm the biggest for returning it and how I should be happy. He ignored me, colorful past. I'm thinking maybe taking it back went too far. AITA? AITA for ambushing my sister at her wedding reception, because she told me her wedding was child-free when it actually wasn't. My 46 meters sister Tracy, 29F, and I aren't close, but we have a good relationship, at least before this all happened. Tracy got married recently, and she told me the wedding was child-free. I have a daughter Ella, 12F, and asked Tracy if she could come, but she said sorry, she and her partner were sticking to the rules. I managed to arrange for Ella to stay at a friend's house for a couple of days, since the wedding was in a different city. So I went to the wedding and I saw quite a few older children, including my other siblings' kids. I know this sounds like I should have known from before from my other siblings, but I never thought to ask them, "Oh, are your kids going?" I did ask my brother at the wedding and he said he was told the child-free limit was only for really young kids, the disruptive ages. It was obvious Tracy lied to me about not bringing Ella. We went through the ceremony and towards the end of the reception, I pulled Tracy aside and said I realized she'd completely lied to me and there were plenty of other kids. She looked pretty uncomfortable and said it wasn't a big deal, but I replied I deserve an apology, and so does Ella at some point. Tracy got mad and said I was ambushing her at her own wedding and it's her and her partner's choice what they do. We ended the conversation there and went off to talk to other people. She sent me a text later saying I was being selfish and I'm the one that should be apologizing to her and her husband for making a big deal out of this. I'll admit I sent a not-so-nice text back about her caring more about aesthetics than people. Now it's sorta blown up within our family. AITA for telling my parents I am willing to sell them my forgiveness? My parents expected me to be independent the minute I turned 18. They gave me the money they had saved up for my education and they started charging me rent. I was lucky enough to have a partial scholarship and I found a job in the city my university was in, so I moved there before the school year began. With my parents' money, my scholarship, and my wages, I was able to scrape by. I rarely if ever spoke with my parents. I was kind of busy. I guess they decided that they didn't want that kind of relationship with my younger siblings because they were not presented with the same option. They both lived at home all through university and even afterwards. I am 34 now with a decent job and a great girlfriend whom I will be marrying this summer. I sent my parents and siblings an invitation. They called me to ask why they were not involved in the wedding. I responded that they hadn't really been part of my life in 16 years and that I was being nice by inviting them. They said that they acknowledged that they made mistakes when I was young, but that it was in the past and that I should get over it. Against my fiance's advice, I sent them an itemized bill for everything I paid for myself that they freely gave my brother and sister. I said if they wanted to be a part of my life, they had to ante up. They said that they cannot afford that because they are in debt still from helping my siblings out. I laughed at that and said I hoped that I would see them at the wedding and hung up. My family are all getting a hold of me to let me know how much I'm hurting my parents. The thing is that I don't want their money. And I don't want anything from them at all other than their attendance at my wedding. If they can't do that, then I'm fine with our yearly phone call. AITA? AITA for wanting my roommate to replace my special wine that her friend opened? I, 23F, share an apartment with 2 roommates. 28 fan 25F. My 28F roommate, Morgan, sometimes has friends over, and they'll watch movies and drink something, usually wine. I don't really drink, just once or twice a year on special occasions. The most recent time was Becca Hughes. My sis wanted to do a wine tasting while we were on a trip together. At the winery, I found the first wine that I've actually enthusiastically liked, a spicy wine infused with hot peppers. I bought a bottle, took it home, and put it in my section of the shared pantry. A couple of months went by without incident. The known Friday night, I came home to Morgan and 2 of her friends drinking it. I confronted her about it, and she said that her friend had opened it without knowing it was mine. Morgan apparently realized the mistake but thought it would be okay because I've said that I don't like wine before. Question mark, question mark, question mark. What makes you think that made it okay? I've said that before, yes, but this is literally the only wine I've ever enjoyed enough to buy a bottle of. I was saving it for a special occasion or maybe to share the next time my sister came to visit. But he drank most of it, and now there's barely a full glass left. I told her I wanted her to replace it, and she agreed. Well, a couple weeks later she said thought she'd gotten me another bottle, but it was just regular wine from the liquor store. I told her that she must have misunderstood. I don't want just any old bottle of regular wine. I want her to get me another bottle of the actual wine that she and her friends drank. Her eyes got really wide and she started complaining about how that winery is a 3-hour drive away, and that wasn't fair because it was her friend who opened it and not her. Honestly? I told her that I didn't really care. Morgan knew it was mine and let her friends drink it anyway. She could have told her friend that it was mine, put it away, and told me about it, and I would have understood. But no, she let them go ahead and even poured herself a glass. She was still drinking it when I came home. So yeah, I've told her that her friend can replace it or she can. Don't really care how. I just want another bottle before the lease is up next year and I move out. Morgan is mad at me. She's been avoiding hanging out in our shared living room and won't speak to me at all now. Our 3rd roommate thinks I'm being unreasonable and wants me to just drop it and accept the regular wine bottle as a replacement, so Morgan will get back to her old self. They're both making me feel really bad now, and I'm wondering if I'm being too harsh. So, AITA? AITA for not taking my wife's side and siding with my parents? Background. My wife, 28F, and I, 30M, as well as me brother and his wife went to visit our parents as we haven't seen them in a while. My parents, 57, had a box of $300 ginseng in the fridge to be giving us a gift for their close friend's wedding anniversary tomorrow. We know this because it came up in conversation during lunch. They also told us to help ourselves to anything in the fridge but to not touch the ginseng for obvious reasons. The problem came when a few hours later my parents called us in a panic saying that they couldn't find the ginseng and if anyone saw it. I didn't take it at first. I thought they just misplaced it somewhere. However, they insisted that they both agreed on not moving it out of the fridge drawer for that exact reason. All of us denied taking it. And the conversation got more heated when my father started yelling that someone must have taken it since it only went missing when we came to visit. All of us continued to deny taking it, with my wife being really quiet, and my father said that if it doesn't turn up soon, he'd have to have everyone's belongings checked. That was when my wife admitted that she took it. Apparently it was some popular brand that my in-laws mentioned and she wanted to give it to them, and she thought that no one would notice since it was in an inconspicuous place in the fridge. My mill later called and said my parents overreacted over such an inconsequential thing, and screamed at me that I was an AmItheAsshole for not defending my wife. The thing is, emo, it wasn't a small thing. My wife literally stole hundreds of dollars from my parents and tried to lie her way out of it. While I agree that my parents shouldn't have started yelling and accusing us, I feel like my wife was in the wrong for taking the ginseng in the first place. This situation has caused a lot of friction and we haven't been speaking since coming home. AITA?